Thank you for that nice introduction. It's been a really fun week, right? And we've been here to discuss and debate big problems, but bigger solutions. And like everyone who's spoken this morning, I think the energy has been really contagious. And I can tell that everybody in this room are ready to be change agents and improve communities facing very complex challenges. All sorts of challenges like the lack of capital, lack of housing, jobs we just talked about. And these problems have resulted in reduced happiness and wellness for millions of Americans. So I think one of the things we've learned is that to increase our collective impact, we have to be focused and we have to be adaptable. So at Wells Fargo, we're learning to focus and adapt as well. And we're doing more than just writing checks. We're also putting our expertise to work. Obviously, it's expertise that we've gained in operating our core businesses. Expertise where we are industry leaders. We're also focusing our money and our minds on three critical issues facing society. One, we're helping people to better manage their financial affairs and build the wealth needed to rise out of poverty that Bill just talked about. Number two, providing capital and training to help small businesses grow where they're most needed to generate jobs and opportunities. And three, we're putting our greatest effort into increasing housing affordability. In fact, we just announced this morning that we're going to invest $1 billion in philanthropy alone through 2025 to solve challenges across the full housing spectrum, from homelessness to transitional housing to rental and home ownership. So, thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, it did have a billion. But I think we all know we're not the first people to address this issue. But as we think about it, it really is paramount for us. Why is it so important? Unfortunately today, many people in this country are sacrificing basic necessities like food and health care just to cover the cost of housing for their families. Growing numbers of Americans can't afford to live because the rent trend is in only one direction. And I think we can all in unison know what that direction is: up. Here's another interesting fact. If you take every single housing unit here in Los Angeles and then take every house or apartment in New York City, Chicago, Houston, and Philadelphia and put them all together, we would still not have the inventory to meet the shortage of affordable housing in this country. Pretty amazing fact. 7 million units are required. Every strata of our society suffer from this, but communities of color and marginalized communities clearly suffer the most. So I'm well aware that when people hear the words Wells Fargo, they don't instantly think, oh, they're the people who fight for affordability of housing. That's fair, I get it. But there is a story here, and I'm glad I get to tell it to you today. So after years of donating millions of dollars to our communities to help our communities, we began asking why our philanthropy hadn't yielded better results in targeted communities. And this got us to thinking, how could we have a greater impact? And so at the end of the housing crisis in 2011, we spotted two trends. A large group of working people couldn't swing the down payment for a purchase of a home. At the same time, communities were desperately looking for solutions to the blight of abandoned homes in their neighborhoods due to the housing crisis. So we put our checkbook and our minds together, and we started a program called Neighborhood Lift in collaboration with NeighborWorks America. And since 2012, we've invested $460 million in down payment assistance grants in underserved communities across the nation. And through that effort, we've created more than 21,000 new homeowners because of that effort. Thank you. When we started in 2012, I don't think we had any idea that we could create over 21,000 home buyers by our efforts. But as a result, many of those people could move into a place that they could finally call home. So, thanks, good results, but the gnawing feeling was still there. We knew that we could and should do better. So, yes, housing's critical to our business. I think you all know that. That's part of what we do. But more importantly, it's actually critical to our conscience. A home is so much more than an investment. It's more than an obligation to make monthly payments to Wells Fargo or someone else, because it fulfills an essential human need. It translates into emotional and physical security. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to conduct a panel, and we were lucky enough to have prize-winning screenwriter Antwone Fisher with us. Some of you have seen the story about Antwone, and he was able to put this personal touch on what this crisis does to people. And he put a real practical, simple face on it. And for those of you who are with us, I think you could see this. And so there are a lot of discussions around the crisis, but they're typically not about the truth. So let's be clear. The housing crisis is both an economic and a humanitarian crisis. So as affluent people have bought ever more expensive homes, not so affluent or working class people have gotten priced out of the market. Neighbors have been priced out of the streets where they grew up. This crisis hurts America. Think about it this way. The people who make the cities and towns work can't even live in them. They can't even live near them. So from my perspective, who wants to live in a city or town where our firefighters and our teachers can't? Where everyday heroes are exiled to somewhere else. So if workers can't live in cities, as far as I'm concerned, cities don't work for us. They don't work just not for other people or them, but for us. So at Wells Fargo, we believe this. And if there's one headline I hope you take out of this room, it would be this one. America can't afford unaffordable housing. Let me repeat that. America can't afford unaffordable housing. So, Wells Fargo didn't necessarily cause the crisis, but as a leader in helping Americans buy and rent their homes, we certainly feel we have a responsibility to ease this problem. So, Wells Fargo, as big as we are, we can't fill that 7 million affordable home deficit that I talked about a few minutes. But think about it, 7 million. That's how many units are needed in this country today. But we do think Wells Fargo can help and strengthen the national resolve to do a hell of a lot more than we're doing today. So what exactly can Wells Fargo do? Well, fortunately, I think we can do quite a lot. First, I think we can get more Americans to grasp the severity of this problem and the harsh consequences on many of our neighbors and ourselves. Perhaps once more people realize the shortage of affordable homes harms all of us, America will start responding at the scale that's appropriate to this problem. But today, our collective response falls short, far short. That's what I meant to say. So, frankly, we have to make more noise and get more attention paid to this issue. We can also affect policy. No, not by lobbying so much but rather by working with the best and brightest in the field to provide information and ideas to governments at all levels, communities, cities, state, and DC. We can also experiment to uncover new techniques and share new ideas. We can activate experts who have imagination, but they may not have the means. Well, maybe we can give them the means to help find those solutions. So to that end, I have a little bit more news this morning. Today, we've also announced a new $20 million Housing Affordability Challenge Grant program. These challenge grants are going to be awarded to the most original and effective ideas to address the housing affordability crisis. And it's all going to have a focus on how we can scale good ideas to benefit more communities. And we can do some of our own innovating of financial tools to reduce the cost of housing. More houses will rise if we lower the cost of building. That's why Wells Fargo is exploring how we can lower the cost of state bond offerings to finance affordable housing. This is what I mean when I talk about putting our money and our minds to work on complex problems. We can also seek out architects with the skills to design safe, attractive, smarter, and cheaper homes. Certainly, we have our work cut out for us if we're going to make real progress in rapidly increasing the availability of affordable housing. And I do mean rapidly. Speed is crucial when so many people lack homes and lack hope. The crisis is moving like a weather front, from the hottest markets in San Francisco and New York, right to here in Los Angeles, to Houston, Cleveland, and Atlanta. From cities to towns and rural America. Rural America has an affordability crisis as well. And so the problem is as widespread as income inequality. Because actually, this is an expression of income inequality. The lack of affordable housing snuffs out the diversity of thought of people in communities. It turns cross-cultural hotbeds into havens of uniformity. It strips the dignity of a good person and then makes her drive 2.5 hours to get to work. So we must act decisively, and by we, I don't mean just some of my 200 friends at the Wells Fargo Foundation, or even the 240,000 team members at Wells Fargo who care greatly about our communities and affordable housing. I also mean our partners in communities from here to New York to Texas. The housing problem is enormous, and to overcome it, you gotta have a lot of friends. Our friends are the activists and organizations in threatened communities around the nation. From them, we gain insight and ideas. With them, we share purpose and commitment, and together we can create momentum and impact. I'm referring to organizations like Enterprise Community Partners, Habitat for Humanity, Urban Institute, and the Low Income Housing Coalition. If we're going to solve this problem, we will do it with them and others like you in this room. A few great partners taught me a long time ago something about philanthropy, and that is that it shouldn't be DIY or do it yourself. Power in numbers is especially relevant when you're up against the toughest social problems like housing affordability. And once you experience the potential for the good that can be done together, it's more contagious than the measles. And I have to tell you, I've caught the bug, and I know that all of you have caught it too. And that's why together we can change the world. Thank you very much.